Alright guys, it is time to resurrect an old series that we haven't made any progress on in the last few months. And that is our 300 blackout subsonic bullet testing series. I kind of got bored a little bit. You know, we did a lot of bullets last summer and then I kind of got bored with it. But it's time to come back. Had a commenter just the other day who was trying to work with the 225 grain Hornady BTHP hollow point match bullet, and he was trying to go off of the 220 grain Sierra video that we did, and was seeing some differences. So I told him, hey, I'll go ahead and just test that bullet here in the next few days. So here we are. That is what we are going to do. I'm going to test this this 225 grain Hornady. So we do have two guns, right? We've got an 8.5 inch SBR with pistol gas, and we've got a 16 inch rifle with carbine gas. So we're going to be testing them in both. I actually had to go back and watch one of my older videos to remember exactly how I did this. What we're going to start out with, so we're going to test with two powders, and we're going to use accurate 1680. That's what he was trying to use, so I definitely want to use 1680 here in this video. And also want to use Reloder 7. It's been a little while since we've done any testing with Reloder 7, so I thought we'd pull that guy out. I expect both of these powders to function well with both the pistol gas system and the carbine length gas system. So we'll see if that holds true, but I expect good function out of both of these powders. Reloder 7 usually does okay with the carbine gas. We are using the same brass we've been using for a good while now. This is Lake City 556 that I converted to 300 blackout. These have got, well, we're probably up to 5, 6, 7 firings on these guys. Primers, we're using the old standby CCI number 41 primers. And of course our 225 grain Hornady Match bullets. We're going to start out with some velocity exploration rounds. I'm going to load up 10 rounds for each gun, and then we'll just go out, we'll shoot them without the suppressor, we'll shoot them at short distance, like 10 feet or something, just to make sure that they're going to fly straight before we put the suppressor on. And we'll also use that time to gather initial velocity data so that we can, use that to come up with some loads to test out at 100 yards. So I've got 20 pieces of brass. We'll load up 10 rounds with Reloder 7, 10 rounds with 1680, 5 for each gun, basically. So on accurate 1680, I want to load from 10 grains up to 12 grains in half grain increments. And we're just going to shoot the same loads in both guns. Even though the 16-inch gun should be noticeably faster, they should both give us enough data to work from. So 10 grains to 12 grains with accurate 1680, and 9.5 grains up to 11.5 grains with Reloder 7. So that's kind of the plan. This brass is already resized and fully prepped. It's already primed, so we just need powder and bullets and we'll be ready to rock. So I'm going to get my scale and trickler fired up here, and we'll be seating bullets here within just a couple minutes. Okay, I've got our first two charges thrown, and I want to go ahead and set our bullet seating die. This bullet is in the Hornady manual, and they use an overall length of 2.250. Tell you what, let's back the seating die out a long way. And actually, I'll back out the course adjustment. I had this die torn apart to clean it earlier, so it might not be set anywhere close to correct. All right, let's see if that makes contact. Nope, or it's making contact, but it's plenty of room to work there. Okay, that should just be a couple thousandths long. Yep, 2.255, that's 5 thousandths long. Let's go ahead and seat the other guy. See where it comes out. .251. These match bullets can have irregularities in the tip, so a few thousandths is nothing to worry about. So that one's about right, just a little bit long. I'm going to go down like, I don't know, 2 thousandths. That way, this one will be just a thousandths or two short, and the other will be just a thousandth or two long. Let's see what it comes out at. 2.253 and 2.249. Good. All right, I do have the Lee Factory crimp die. We're not going to crimp these hard, but just give a little bit of a squeeze. Yeah, that's too much. Don't want to feel a lot of resistance. Yeah, that's fine. Basically, little to no crimp. Just kiss it a little bit. All right, so our dies are set. Now I just need to hand weigh the other 18 of these charges, and we'll be ready to go out for our crude velocity readings. All right, so that's the first 20 test rounds ready to rock. So let's get out there and see if they'll fly through the paper straight. Okay, it is incredibly windy out here today, but I think we've got a lull, at least long enough to where we should be able to get these shot. We're going to start out with my SBR. So this is an 8.5 inch Rainier Ultra Match barrel with 1 in 8 twist. So this will be our first gun. We're going to start out with, we're going to start out with accurate 1680, and we'll shoot from fastest to slowest. So this is 12 grains. Couple things we're looking out for here. We want nice, neat holes in the paper that show that the bullet is stabilized. And we want to gather up velocity information, of course. I've got my magneto speed chronograph on here. And we also want to see if the brass ejects okay and that our bolt locks back. So I'm going to load these one at a time, and we'll check bolt lock back on each one. So let's start out here. 8.5 inch barrel, 12 grains of accurate 1680. Not really aiming at anything. Actually going to try to get each shot separate on the paper. So just going to try and keep them around that general vertical line. And we'll see what happens. All right, so that was only 1,090 feet per second. So we may not have loaded hot enough with 1680, it seems. Okay, down to 11.5. Okay, our fifth shot, we didn't read velocity. I had a little error here. That's okay. We got the shots that count. They all locked the bolt back, which is impressive, but not all that surprising with accurate 1680. It's a really good powder. So, yep, looks like our 4 shots should be enough to get us in the ballpark. Okay, now on to Reloder 7 with the same gun. First up is 11.5 grains. Okay, beautiful. So we were low there again, all the way down to 886 feet per second, but the bolt locked back all the way down that low. So, and that, again, not a huge surprise with the pistol gas system. Reloder 7 is a great powder. So, all right, let me get guns swapped out. First of all, let me go check the bullet holes really quick. Okay, the bullet holes look pretty good. We'll have a little closer look at them when we get inside, but looking pretty good. All right, so this is our 16-inch gun. This is an AR Stoner 1 in 8 twist barrel, 16 inches. Pretty cheap barrel, but man, this gun really shoots well. So we're going to shoot them in the same order. We're going to start with 12 grains of accurate 1680, and let's see what happens. Okay, so minor technical difficulties there. Stupid camera. All right, so we went all the way down to 929 feet per second. We locked the bolt back on all of our shots, so all is good with accurate 1680. So let's move over to Reloder 7, starting with 11.5 grains. All right, that did not lock the bolt back. 1,108 feet per second, it did not lock the bolt back. That sucks. It'll probably be fine once we put the suppressor on. Same there, no bolt lock back. All right, let's go check the bullet holes. Okay, first look at the bullet holes is good. One thing I may not have mentioned, this does have a carbine length gas system. So the function issues were not totally unexpected. So let's go ahead. All right, everything was fine. Let's get inside, do up some charts, and come up with some loads to actually test for accuracy. All right, so a little closer look at the bullet holes. It looks okay. Maybe a few here and there that kind of have that little bit of a tail smear like we've seen before, but nothing at all to worry about. And I'm completely comfortable putting on our suppressor for the remainder of the testing. As far as function goes, kind of what we expected. Accurate 1680, no problems at all, like normal. Reloder 7, didn't want to lock the bolt back with the carbine gas, which is also pretty much expected. So let's look at some charts. We'll go in the order we shot them. First up, the accurate 1680 with the 8.5 inch barrel. We only got 4 readings from the chronograph, but that's okay. You know, the velocities more or less line up, at least tell us about where we should be. So our goal is 1,050 feet per second. Keeps us a comfortable amount below the supersonic threshold, which is like 1130-ish, something like that. So 1050 is what I generally shoot for here in these videos. So looking at this, what I want to load up, I want to pick out 3 charge weights with each powder and gun combination to load up 5-shot groups. So I think our 3 shots here, our 3 groups here should be 11.4, 11.6, and 11.8. That should put us right there in the meat of that 1,050 feet per second area. So let's move on to the next chart, which is the 8.5 with Reloder 7. Once again, velocities look okay. Nothing really crazy going on there. That 11 grain charge was right about perfect. But what we're going to shoot is 10.9, 11.1, and 11.3. That should cover that area pretty well. So on to the 16-inch barrel. This one, yeah, kind of looked a little bit funky here. We're doing a little bit more guesswork. I'm wondering if maybe I made a mistake when I was loading, because it looks like the two lowest. If the two lowest, if I made a mistake and the 10.5 was actually a 10 and the 11.5 was actually an 11, the chart would be a whole lot, would make a whole lot more sense. That's not outside of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I don't know. But the good news is that 11 grain charge was right there at about 1050. So what I want to shoot is 11, 11.2, and 11.4. So even if this chart is lying to us a little bit, 11.4 should at most be right at 1100 feet per second. So I think that 11 to 11.4 range should still be in the meat, even if we're maybe just a touch hot, but a little bit hot is okay. All right, Reloder 7 looked a little bit better here with the 16-incher. So what I want to go with is 10.3, 10.5, and 10.7. And that should get us pretty close. All right, so that's pretty much it. We're using the same brass that, I've already got prepped and ready to rock. So we're going to jump straight into dumping powder. Our overall length from the last time, 2.250, worked just fine. So the dies are already set. So this should go pretty quick and we should be back out on the range here in no time. So if anything exciting comes up, I'll turn on the camera and say hello. All right, so the loading portion here has gone off without anything exciting or interesting happening. Pretty boring, just weighing a bunch of charges and seating a bunch of bullets. So that's it. We are ready to rock. 60 rounds, ready to go. So let's get out to the range. Okay, so the weather outside is somewhat frightful, but that's fine. We're going to shoot anyway. Now, here's the problem. I did not load up any sighters because I am a big fat idiot and forgot. So I want to shoot this out of order. I actually want to shoot the bottom middle dot, which gives me the most paper to miss by. Because I did sight this guy in with some 200 grain Maker Rex bullets, but I'm thinking these are going to fly a little bit better, so I'm afraid I'm going to hit high. And actually, I'm going to move this down a couple MOA and a half. All right, so bottom middle dot, this is 11.1 grains of Reloder 7. Let's see what happens. And we are starting with the 8.5-inch barrel. All right, that went way high. All right, let's go ahead and move it now. All right, that should be better. So that'll be a 4-shot group, and we'll just have to remember where that other shot is. All right, looks like those 4 grouped pretty well. I am shocked because some of those, so I had shot 1,097 feet per second, 1100 feet per second, 1094 feet per second. Those all sounded like they went super. So I haven't shot subsonics really in the winter. I'm used to the subsonic threshold or supersonic threshold being about 1130. So sounds like, you know, dry air maybe, colder. It's all the way down to 1100. Pretty cool. All right, now let's step back to what should have been our first group. All right, so this is 11.4 grains, top left dot. I like the way these groups are starting. So next up, 11.6 grains. You guys remember where that one stray shot is, so we can ignore it later. Okay, 11.8. That was super, and that was 1082 feet per second. This is blowing my mind. Okay, now back to Reloder 7. This is 10.9 grains. Hopefully this will be just about right, because we already know that 11.1 was a little bit too fast. Okay, 11.3. These are all going to be super, but that's okay. We'll see what sort of group they shoot. All right, time to switch guns. See what the 16-inch gun will do. That wasn't bad shooting for the 8.5. The 8.5 just isn't as accurate as the 16. So those couple of those groups were halfway decent. All right, let's get switched out. Okay, this time I'm afraid I might hit a little bit low, but we're just going to roll with it. So we're going to go with accurate 1680, 11 grains. That's going to be our top left dot. So let's just see what happens. Nope, it hit about a mile low. All right, let's see if this does any better. Yeah, much better. All right, I'm going to come up one more MOA. Okay, 11.2 grains. Okay, I guess I shouldn't have went up in MOA. We'll leave it where it's at for now. Hopefully you guys can see that, but it's hitting high. Okay, 11.4. All right, our first load of Reloder 7 is 10.3 grains. That's good. It did lock the bolt back, and that was only 1,003 feet per second. Okay, 10.5. Okay, last up, 10.7. All right, good deal. Let's get inside, see if we can regain the feeling in our fingers, and see what we can make of all this. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I may have just found my go-to bullet for the 8.5-inch SBR. This was really good. This was really good. So 1.8 inches, 1.4, 1.8, and then the Reloder 7 groups were actually better. Right about an inch, 1.1, 0.6, and 1.2. I have no explanation. I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess. I pulled out some of my better shooting bullets from our previous tests. All right, here's Match Kings. These, you know, it shot, these were actually at these were shot at 75 yards. So a little over an inch here were the best I got. So it wasn't bad with the 200 grain Sierra Match King. The 220 grain Sierra Match King, probably about the same. But that 1.5 to 2 inch sort of range is what I was getting out of the SBR. And I've mentioned it on previous videos. I've been thinking about swapping the barrel in this SBR because I've really not been happy with it. The way it's been shooting, the way it shoots a lot of the copper solid bullets that I've been shooting. But like the 16-incher, this was our, you know, our target from today. 2.4, 1.7, 1.4. So it wasn't great. It was 1.5 to 2.5 inches. So the 16-inch gun really didn't care much for this bullet. But those same two bullets I just showed, 200 grain Sierra Match King, it shot awesome. You know, it shot 4 of the 6 groups here are an inch or under. No worse than 1.4 inches with the 200 grain Sierra Match King. With the 220, the worst group was 1.3 inches, you know, and down to 0.48 inches. Like I say, these were at 70 yards. So the 16-inch gun just did not like this 225 grain bullet. But the 8.5 sure did. That's the best I've ever seen it shoot. So I'm pretty stoked, pretty happy about this, especially considering the fact that, you know, these are one of the cheaper bullets. So this is really exciting. I'm happy that maybe I found a really good bullet for my SBR. Let's look at the charts real quick. I did update the charts. This is the accurate 1680 chart for the 8.5-inch barrel. The standard deviation numbers were not outstanding. It was, let's see, 10.1. So the 11.4 grain charge, the standard deviation was 10.1. 11.6 grain charge, it was 9.1. And the 11.8, it was 16.9. So actually, I guess those are pretty darn good. Those are pretty good. But we were right on top of our number, 1,050 feet per second. That 11.6 grain charge was perfect. So it's looking like out of the 8.5 inch, 11.6 grains is going to be our number. So let's move on to the Reloder 7. Now this one, the highest charge, actually one of them got chopped off by the chart here. It's up higher than 1100, but the standard deviation numbers were 6.2, 13.9, and then 25.7 with our highest charge. So not terrible. We seem to pick up some velocity here. You see our 3 groups of 5 were a little bit above where the test rounds were. So we gained a little bit of velocity from the suppressor, I guess, on the Reloder 7 stuff. So, but that's okay. Well, to be honest, I guess Reloder 7 actually shot better. So accurate 1680 or 1,050 feet per second charge would be this 11.6. And that was about a 1.4 inch group. So 1680 was 1.4 to 1.8. So inch and a half ish for 1680. Reloder 7 though, 1.1 inch, 0.6 inch, and 1.2 inch. That's pretty darn good. Our 10.9 grain was a little bit hot, 1,067 feet per second, but so like 10.8 would probably be the ideal number there. But we need to give one of these guys a circle as our winner. So for the 8.5 inch gun, we're going to go with 10.9. Call that our winning charge. Yeah, this is really good shooting, and good to see Reloder 7 shooting some nice groups like that. All right, back to the 16 inch gun. Let's look at the charts. Here's our accurate 1680 chart. The standard deviation numbers on this one were like the lowest charge was 23.4, so that one was kind of spread out, but the next two were 12 and 13.6. So nothing terrible. Velocity, we were right on the money. That 11.2 grain charge was 1,040 feet per second, so yeah, maybe 11.3 would be perfect, but we were right there close. Not too shabby. So the last chart here is Reloder 7. These also, let's see, standard deviation numbers were 22.0, 15.6, and 7.4. So our middle charge, 10.5 grains, was right on the money at 1,051 feet per second average. So that was good. It did function, the gun, once we put the suppressor on. But these groups are just kind of gross, a little bit gross. Well, I shouldn't say gross. They're not terrible. And you remember this shot down here, which you guys couldn't even see when it was on camera, was the first shot, which actually belonged to this group up here, and then I moved the scope, and it was a mess. So we ignore this guy down here, and that's our 2.3 inch group there, our 1.7. So I need to pick a winner out of this little here. They're both 1.7 inch groups. Our 1,050-ish feet per second groups are both 1.7. But up here, are just higher than that, was 1.4. So let's go ahead and give this one to accurate 1680. And we'll call 11.2 grains our guy. Because you know what? Down here, now that I remember, the 10.5 had a stray super. We had that weird thing where the, you know, the supersonic threshold was down like at 1080. But this guy, yeah, it was kind of weird. We had a super in this group. So that's another good reason to stay away from Reloder 7 here as far as what we observed. So that's what we'll call our winner. So at the risk of making this video too long, I want to go back to our original 5-yard target or whatever it was. And looking closer, these 16-inch barrel shots, see if I can find you a good one here. Maybe this one right here. It may not come across. But these guys, like the 8.5s were nice and round. Didn't see any tail wiggle. But when we got down to the 16s, some of these showed just the slightest bit of elongation. So that was the first clue that the 16-inch might not shoot as well as the 8.5. The only other bullet I've seen where the 8.5 shot better than the 16 was the 194 grain Lehigh Defense maximum expansion. Every other bullet we've tested thus far, the 16-inch gun has shot better. So, yeah. At this point it's a mystery, but I'm glad to have a bullet that really shoots well at the 8.5 inch. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Did we cover everything exhaustively? I think we did. So, all right, I will see you guys next time.